Evening, everyone. Welcome to
Maybe.
Kiwanis Let's Talk. Tonight is our session with the candidates for the Michigan District of Kiwanis Governor-elect. And we are happy to have with us Frank Palazzolo and Rosemary Robinson this evening. They are the two candidates that have declared their candidacy for the role of governor-elect for the 2020-2021 year. That's hard to say. My name is Sue Peterson, and I'm a member of the East Lansing and Grand Ledge Kiwanis Club. I'm a past Kiwanis International President, and here with me today is also Larry Memmer, who is the immediate past governor of Michigan District, and he will help us this evening keep time if we should have that challenge. So Frank and Rosemary, what we will do is I will give you each 90 seconds to do an introduction, and then we have a number of questions that have been submitted to us. And I would like to invite all of our other participants that are our attendees that are on the call this evening or the webinar this evening. If you have questions that you would like to ask, please put them in the chat. What we will do is go ahead and invite you in to ask your question of the candidates. We're going to rotate back and forth between Frank and Rosemary answering the questions, so they each get a shot at the first one. As we've learned in our past years, unfortunately, it's hard to hide one of them, so to say, so they can't hear the answer from the other question, but we know this is the way it works. So I want to welcome President Nordia from the Kiwanis Club of Greater Portmore, Jamaica. Welcome, glad you're with us this evening. So we will start out and we'll go in alphabetical order. So Frank, if you'd like to give us a 90-second introduction.
All right, well, for people who don't know me, I'm Frank Palazzolo. I am the Lieutenant Governor for Division 1. I'm working on my second term. Prior to that, I was the distinguished president of Detroit number 1. My wife and I have been married for 38 years. I have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. I was the mayor of the city of Harper Woods, which had a population of 15,000. I worked for Henry Ford Health System for 20 years, and I'm a graduate from University of Michigan and the University of Detroit, and I hold 3 degrees. I think, like many of you, I came for the service, but I stayed for the fellowship. I've had a tremendous fun time for the 36 years that I've been a member. And during that, because of that, I recognize a lot of the opportunities and challenges that face our organization. And I think I've outlined most of them in my platform position paper, which you can find on my Facebook page if you haven't already seen a copy of it. And you can reach it by going to facebook.com/Palazzolo for Kiwanis Governor. And I think that's about it.
Thank you, Frank. Rosemary?
Thank you so much, Governor Sarah, Sue, and the Michigan District here for hosting this candidate forum. My name is Rosemary Robinson. I'm #World's Best Dance, and I like pink flamingos. Professionally, my background is in finance and business management, and I currently serve as a paraplanner for Gleaner Financial. A bit over 10 years ago, Steve invited me to join him for breakfast at his Kiwanis meeting, and I've been a member of the Kiwanis Club of Swartz Creek ever since. I am both a distinguished club president and a distinguished lieutenant governor, and have served on many of the various district committees, including the lieutenant governor class chair and vice chair of the formula. While serving in the many Kiwanis roles, not only has given me the experience, knowledge, and training to effectively serve the district as governor, it has also shown me the areas where I would like to focus if elected. Focusing on our existing clubs' needs, increase our leader base club up, balancing our traditions with modern ideas, increasing our efforts through the Michigan Kiwanis Foundation, continuing to keep the district on a balanced budget. I look forward to answering your questions tonight and ask that you reach out if you have more questions later on.
Thank you, Rosemary. Okay, we will start with our questions. So the first question I'll ask to both of you, and Frank, you get the first response on this one, is what do you see as the role of the governor-elect for the Michigan District? Frank, you're muted.
Many aspects to that role. but mainly it's to support all of the club presidents and the lieutenant governors as they address the needs of their local communities.
Okay. Rosemary.
I hear a lot that it is planning for your year as governor in addition to the support of whatever you can do for the district. And I look forward to whatever that may be.
Okay, our second question. The pandemic that we are all experiencing right now has had an effect on everyone. We're no different as an organization. And how will you help lead this organization during this difficult time? Rosemary, first question.
I think we've had a lot of great examples led through this, but some of the things have kind of changed for the better. Many people are loving these digital meetings. We're seeing more people show up, and you kind of just have to follow the guidelines that are given by people in the know, elected officials, doctors, etc., and hope that we hit the ball on the head as to what to do.
Thank you. Frank?
Well, as Rosemary pointed out, the digital meetings seem to be a great success. I know the Cosmopolitan Club, Detroit #1, in my division have had great success with those. And but I think as my role, I've tried to lead the COVID special appeal to raise money for the healthcare workers who are the front line of defense, so to speak, that against the virus, and to build a coalition to do that. And I think that those are the kind of things going forward. If there is a second phase to this virus, I think that that can be a role of the governor-elect.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. What means of communication will you use to be accessible to members of the district?
Is that to me?
And that will go to, yes, Frank.
Okay. Well, you're seeing it right now with Zoom. I have done emails, and of course, my phone number is published, and everyone in my division already can access me that way, and I would make myself available to anyone in the entire district.
Rosemary.
Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, text, email, phone. I have no problem talking on the phone. So anything but TikTok. I'm not really sure what that is.
Okay. Our fourth question, we'll start out with Rosemary. If you choose to do only one thing to improve the district in the 3 years you would serve in leadership roles with the Kiwanis of Michigan, what would that be?
I would really focus on the clubs. I know that each one of us as a person has different needs, wants, and the same is with our clubs. And if we can focus on our clubs individually, it's proven that we can grow those clubs. So that's what I would focus on.
Okay, Frank?
My emphasis is on the existing clubs, help support them in their service projects. My belief is that if you build it, they will come. If you have the right service projects in your community, you'll involve the community, and that will allow you to grow and prosper. And I'm there for supporting them in that role.
So the Michigan District has a strategic plan that has been functioning in operation for the last several years. Tell us what you believe your role is and how that aligns with what your intent is and your goals are as governor-elect. And that will go to Frank.
Okay. Well, again, and my intent, as I see it, is to help the clubs grow and prosper, to get younger, to recruit new members. And to do that, I believe that the best way to do it is through supporting them in their various service projects, and also to help them get more publicity. As Sarah had once said, we need to improve our brand image, and I believe that I can help do that through various public relations type endeavors.
Thank you. Rosemary?
Well, if I remember right, the strategic plan has several key areas. And one of those is actually keeping the district on a balanced budget. With my background in finance, the years I was lieutenant governor, you know, that was one of the things I followed closely, was making sure we were aligned with the budget. Another area is bringing in people of, I guess, varying demographics, younger, older, to make our clubs more reflective of our communities. And I think that being a younger Kiwanian, you know, that is somewhere of strength I have to, you know, where other people see that there are younger people in the club, then maybe they'll want to join. And I'm real big on hands-on service. So if we can increase those service hours and get out there and be visible in our communities, hey, give me a call. I'll come out and help you.
Great. Our next question, we will start with Rosemary. If a club needs help in retaining members, what strategies would you suggest they use to be successful?
Well, take a look at their club and, you know, see why maybe they've had problems with retaining members in the past. You know, is it due to job changes or economy, or is it due to the culture of their club? And once you can determine that, there's several tools Kiwanis International helps us out with. You can move forward and you know, guide the club in changing the areas, if possible, to make their club more appealing to its members.
Thank you. Frank?
Well, when I first became lieutenant governor, one of the first things I noticed was, of course, in my division, there was a declining membership. It was a gradual, but still declining membership. So I did an analysis of all the clubs in the area, the demographics involved, and came up with a plan that at least could inform all of the individual clubs, and to help them to do their own analysis of what resources they had available to them and how they thought that they could best address that need. And it was fairly successful. We got part of it off the ground. And then the idea was that maybe we would create a sort of a SWAT team of members from each of the clubs, who would then do boosts of clubs that might have a particular need. And I believe those things could be expanded, not just from the division, but to the district.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. What have you done personally to help membership growth in the Michigan district? Frank, that'll start with you.
Is that me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I recruited 7 members for my own club. And like I said, I put together that program so that each of the clubs in my division would have a method of analysis that they could utilize to grow. So like I said, I think those things could be expanded upon district-wide, and that's it.
Okay, Rosemary?
First of all, I was the club coach for several different clubs around the division, at district and division. They have, under tutelage, guidance, whatever verbiage you want to say, we had one go from 7 members to 17 members over about a year and a half. And they are probably the club biggest on service that I know, even with the small amount of people. I was the vice chair for the formula, which was our membership team for 5 years. And I served primarily guiding all the coaches and making sure our existing clubs had resources they needed. I've worked on all the club openings we've had in various capacities, and whatever roles they kind of needed me to serve that could work with my schedule. And so I've made phone calls. I've gone out and chatted with people. I sat back and ran spreadsheets, pulled numbers, and last but not least, when a new club needed some members, I was like, hey, Mom, you're joining. So Merry Christmas.
Okay, next question. Rosemary, this one's for you. What is your plan to help strengthen our service leadership programs in the Michigan District?
That is one where I probably don't have as much experience as a lot. I'll admit it. I would love to be more involved with our SLPs, but they kind of mainly meet at a time I have to be at work. But I think if we encourage our clubs to have an SLP if they don't have one already, as well as maybe increase it, we've got a lot of universities, a lot of high schools that either don't have a club or have an orphan club. And, you know, we have people who are willing to work with them. And hopefully we can meet everything up together and work out a plan forward. So I look forward to exploring a little bit more on the SLP side than I've ever been able to do before.
Thank you, Rosemary. Frank?
Well, as president of Detroit #1, one of the first things I did was to strengthen our ties to the Wayne State University Circle K Club. And I believe that that's what is necessary amongst all clubs. If you have a SLP at whatever level, if you're able to maintain that relationship or improve it, I think in the long term that will be good for the district and Kiwanis in general. Because in a lot of cases, you'll have key club members who really don't understand the relationship to Kiwanis. And after they graduate and move on, they're not, when they get older, they don't automatically think about joining Kiwanis. But if they had a strong relationship, I believe that those people it'll be a natural for them to come back to Kiwanis. And like I said, I think every club who has sponsored an SLP should try and do more with them to strengthen those ties. And truthfully, they're a lot of fun to work with and do service projects with. So I'd encourage every club to have one, and if you have one already, to work with them.
Thank you, Frank. This question will go to you to start with, Frank. What do you believe is the biggest need or support, if any, that the Kiwanis International Board or staff can assist the Michigan District, and I'll repeat this, so the biggest need or support, if any, from the Kiwanis International Board or staff to assist the Michigan District in new club building and strengthening of existing clubs?
Well, I think they have a lot that they can offer. They certainly have a lot of analysis of the demographics and so forth. And when I tried to do a boost for my own club, the Detroit #1, I did go to them to ask them what information they had available that they could share with me. I wasn't able to get them to send a crew in to perform a boost, so to speak, but I think that that's something that they could offer to us. And for those clubs that really need it, I would think that that's a good resource to reach out to.
Okay, Rosemary?
I see a lot of problems come from our clubs due to lack of a leadership pipeline. So I'd like to see, I guess this would be directed by the board, but come out of international, more training, more explanation maybe of the different roles, and maybe a bit more guidance on how to do some of those roles, especially for people who might have to take over in the middle of the year situation. And I know they've got new trainings coming out, so I'm excited to see what some of those look like. But I think that sometimes we make the positions harder than they actually are, and people are too scared to take them. So somehow if we can find a balance in that and have more clubs with active leadership in their pipeline, I think the strength of the clubs would be better.
Okay. Next question. Start with Rosemary. How much time do you feel you can devote to the role of governor-elect and governor based on what you're currently involved in?
I have it easy. I only have the Kiwanian in the yard to deal with. So there is a lot of spare time in the day to help out with different Kiwanis things. The only issue I really see where I can't do a lot is the 12 o'clock hour. But I'm willing to travel on the weekends, and I've got family all around the state. So generally there's somewhere I can spend the night if needed. So I foresee a lot of time being available.
Okay, Frank?
Well, I'm retired. I've been retired for, let's see now, about 12 years. Ever since I was in a car accident years ago, and so I retired shortly thereafter. But at any rate, yeah, I don't think that I have any problems with time. It's not like when I was mayor, and not only was I working at one job, but I was the mayor required about 40 hours a week on top of it. So I'm used to working a lot of hours, but obviously you only want to do what's necessary.
Okay, Frank, we'll start this question with you. What made you, or why were you interested in running for governor-elect?
Well, I thought that, I'd been the president of Detroit #1 and lieutenant governor, and I'd seen, after 36 years, you have a pretty good feel for all the opportunities and challenges that are there that face the district. And I thought that I could lend a hand in trying to reach those things. There's been a lot of governors before me that saw the issues, like brand awareness that Sarah brought up. And I think that I can build on those to help the district grow.
Okay, Rosemary?
I have always been interested in the different leadership positions, no matter where I'm at. And the Kiwanis ones have just come kind of unexpectedly or naturally, one of those terms. And, governor was the next thing in line. So I'm like up to the challenge, and I kind of needed to challenge myself. So sure.
Okay, we are having some technical difficulty here.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Rosemary.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you have really strong feedback.
Let's try that.
Go ahead, try again.
I've been in a lot of the different Kiwanis roles, almost a different one each year. And so it's just been a kind of a natural progression. And I thought it was time to run for governor and, continue the leadership I can provide to Kiwanis.
Okay. Questions are coming in fast and furious on our chat line. I just want you to know that. How would you, we'll start with Rosemary. How would you help market Kiwanis to get younger people to join or be more active?
I think it really starts with hands-on service. The younger people may not have as much in the money-wise. And so, make sure that we've got the hands-on service for them to do. And second of all, we can't turn down ideas that they may have, because that, makes it unattractive to them. And so I think being visible with the younger members we already do have, as well as being acceptive and receptive of younger members and doing hands-on service, will help us with that attraction.
Frank?
Well, as president of Detroit #1, not only did I get Circle K involved, but I tried to get our Key Club involved and to work with the Metro Detroit Young Professionals, which we had co-sponsored. And I tried to bring in a younger group to work on service projects so that, people could actually see that the demographics were not just, 55 and older. And the other thing I tried to work with was JCI, which was opening. We had just had an agreement with them, and they were trying to open a club in Detroit, downtown Detroit, and I tried to organize a joint networking meeting with them. We had already started, for my club, we had networking meetings once a month while I was president, and so we were just going to bring them in on it. But unfortunately, I couldn't, things fell through on their end. But I think that that's an opportunity.
Okay. This one comes from the governor of the Southwest District of Kiwanis, and we'll start with Frank. As governor of the Southwest District and any other district, he has worked closely with the sitting governor while he was governor-elect. What plan do you have in place to work with the incoming governor, Fran Babbage?
What my plan is to work with her?
Yes, so you would be coming in as
Fran
governor-elect. What
and
is your plan?
Fran and I have already talked. Sorry?
Go ahead.
Fran and I have already talked about roles. One of the things was she was hoping for help with fundraising. And, if you go out to my platform position paper, you'll note that I talked about fundraising. I have some ideas, but I'm also believe that a committee needs to be formed that can work together on this so that we get buy-in from all the clubs to do a particular fundraiser. It doesn't really work on a top-down kind of thing where you just decide you're going to do a fundraiser and then sometimes they support you and sometimes they don't. So that's the how I'm going to work with Fran.
Rosemary?
Well, one of the biggest things is building on what has been done in years past. So working with Fran and knowing what we're doing next Kiwanis year, and then figuring out how we build upon that for the following year is one way. And then the other way is just to be there for them in whatever capacity you might be. I don't know whether that's keeping time in a meeting or however you may be able to help be on a subcommittee, whatever way is possible. I know Fran, I've chatted on a few ideas, but that building stepping stone is the biggest thing I see.
Okay. Next question. Since many of our clubs suffer a problem with keeping members engaged with the current pandemic, what do you think is the best way to train existing clubs to learn communication skills over the web? Rosemary, we'll start with you.
I guess this one's probably up my alley because I am the techno person for our club. You've got to have somebody who is willing in each club to run their technology programs, whether that be website, Facebook, other social media, Zoom, one of the other web programs. Somebody has to know how to do it. And if there's somebody who is interested, we need to make sure that they've got training. But I think some of these ideas can keep some members engaged whether or not we have a pandemic going. If you can have, maybe a Zoom or a Facebook live feed going of your meeting while everybody's sitting down having breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the person who can't make the meeting can pop it up. Maybe they work in a different town, but they can pop it up on their lunch hour and watch it and keep them connected that way. So I think if we should have some training in the district on the different areas of technology, and we might need to add one for Facebook Live and Zoom style areas.
Okay, Frank?
Well, I think there's nothing wrong with more training. I will say that since March, it seems like at least the clubs in my division seem to have picked up the idea of Zoom, Facebook Live, and conferencecall.com. They've been able to work on all of those rather easily. So there does seem to be some people and just about every club that have some technological bent that can facilitate that. There may be need for more training in terms of social media to try and get that information out to beyond the local club. And I think, we may be able to utilize KI for some of that. I know it other district and even the international convention, they've supplied people to offer that kind of training.
Okay, thank you. Frank, we'll start this question with you. Tell us about your district leadership experience and how do you feel it will help you being elected as the highest leader of the, how do you feel it will help you being the highest elected leader in Michigan?
Well, the first thing that you have to do as a lieutenant governor is to get to know the other clubs. When you're the president of your club, I visited other clubs for inter clubs and so forth, but you don't have that same sort of relationship you don't have the working relationship around the service projects or joint service projects that you would have. But once you become lieutenant governor, that's one of the key things that I found that I tried to do, is to help them for their fundraising and help for their service projects, and try to get different clubs to work together on stuff. I know Detroit #1, for instance, has worked quite well with the Cosmopolitan Club. It started when I was president. It's continued on, and I think those are the kind of things that you learn to do. And I think I can bring that to bear for the all of the district. In fact, one of the things that I talked about in my platform is Kiwanis Month. That idea that all the clubs could be select 1 month in which they could do a service project and fundraisers and networking events. And if we were all doing it at the same time, we'd have a bigger influence, a bigger impression, and that can help build brand awareness. So working together is one way of making the district stronger.
Great. Thanks, Frank.
Well,
Go ahead, Rosemary.
I've served 2 terms as lieutenant governor, and during the second term, I was the class chair, which meant you serve on every committee. So I've been on bylaws. We changed to the standard format during my year. I've been on the strategic planning committee, so I've seen what roles need to go into that. I've been on the steering committees, membership committee. I served as vice chair for the formula, which is was a Kiwanis sponsored committee at the district level. So I've seen all the positions. I've sat on the executive committee, know what work takes into the roles just on the district level. So I feel that the experience I've got there actually is a good baseline for going forward.
Thank you. We'll start this question with you, Rosemary. As the leader of the Michigan district, what do you think is the most important support that you can provide to your lieutenant governors?
I think the most important thing is actually what the lieutenant governors need for their clubs, and that's the listening ear. As your lieutenant governors are sitting there having whatever issues they may have within their divisions, you need to be there to be that listening ear and to be able to guide to a solution without stepping in and like bossing a solution or telling a solution to them. And when people have that, they have the buy-in. And so I believe the listening ear is probably the biggest thing that we can have anywhere down the Kiwanis pipeline of leadership.
Thank you, Rosemary. Frank?
Well, I think there are a number of issues and opportunities that are common to all the clubs, and of course that is something that all the lieutenant governors come in contact with. As the governor or governor-elect, I believe my role would be to help support them and to have someone that they can come and talk to about ideas, about problems and possible solutions. And I think I've brought to bear a lot of analytical expertise over the years, and I'm certainly willing to share it with all the lieutenant governors.
Thank you, Frank. This question is for you. Will you be able to come to service leadership program clubs, SLP clubs, for weekend or evening service projects to share your input in Kiwanis and to give them a role model?
Do I plan on doing it?
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I strongly believe in the SLPs. I believe that's how we get stronger. I think that, you know, one of the things I talk about on my platform is that we need a tracking mechanism to track SLP members from their Days in Builders Club, to Key Club, to Circle K and onward, so that they will feel that they can come and join Kiwanis right afterwards. And to do that, they have to have a great experience. And as part of that, I think that my support of those functions would go a long way to showing the flag, so to speak, of Kiwanis at those type of meetings. Yes.
Thank you, Frank. Rosemary?
I'm actually very excited about this opportunity you know, as the governor-elect, immediate past, etc., you get invited to come out to the different events more so than maybe your average club member. And nights and weekends, you bet I'll be there.
Wonderful, thank you. Next question. Rosemary, what radical idea do you have to help Kiwanis?
Oh, radical. Well, I have a lot of ideas, but I think probably some of the most radical is remembering that we're all kind of in this together and we can't exclude people. So how do we be inclusive and come out, you know, stronger and better? So whether or not that's, I have to show up dressed as a pink flamingo, I don't know, but, you know, we'll have to be somewhat radical to deal with different issues.
Okay, Frank?
Well, I think the most radical idea that I brought to bear so far is the idea of Kiwanis Month. I think there's a number of other opportunities that we could do, including various service projects, some of which, you know, I've talked about, like suicide prevention and illiteracy and the prevention of sex trafficking with minors. I don't think that that's something that every club would want to do or needs to do. But in some communities, it is an important thing. And I guess I'm willing to support those clubs and their efforts in that area. So I guess that's somewhat radical because those aren't traditionally the areas that we have supported in the past.
Okay, Frank, we'll start this question with you. Knowing that we are the members of the Michigan District of Kiwanis, what should we stop doing, start doing, and continue doing? So a three-part question.
Start doing, stop doing,
and
what was
continue
the other
doing.
one?
And continue doing.
Well, I think continuing the fellowship that we have had for years is something that we have to continue because without that, well, no one would stay. Stop doing. Well, I guess the only thing that I can think of that we need to stop doing is focusing on negatives. There are negatives in individual clubs. There's negatives that exist in the demographics. And I think what we need to focus in more is the opportunities and the positives that we have that we can bring to bear. And what was the third one? Stop, start?
Stop, start, and continue.
Okay, so I had to continue. So we start. I think we have to do start doing more in terms of projecting our brand. I mean, that's something Sarah talked about. We started to do it, but we need to continue to do that. I guess that's not really a start then, but maybe it's a continuation of the start. But that's something that we need to do. I think that we need to have better access and better reach to the media. You know, you can't really advertise something if all you do is keep it internal. So to reach out to the people that need to join Kiwanis, that we have to tell the story that's existed for 105 years, but which isn't widely known.
Rosemary?
Well, first of all, we need to stop not listening to new ideas. We don't like that word called change, so we really don't want to hear new ideas a lot of the time. So we need to stop doing that and actually sit back and consider those ideas. We need to start talking more about Kiwanis. We need to publicize however that looks today. Newspaper media has gone down a bit, but you know, there's different medias on the internet now as well as social media, and we need to start doing more of that at each individual club level as well as continue it at the district level. And we need to continue doing the service that we already do because the kids still need us.
Okay, next question comes from Our audience, what should Kiwanis be focused on in the next 10 years?
Is that to me?
Nope, that would be Rosemary.
To me,
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that it's the service to our community, and how is that going to change with this pandemic, and with each year that goes by. Our community needs change, and we need to keep adapting to those needs to continue providing the service that we do today.
Frank?
Well, each year comes with its own challenges. I think that if you go back to the 1915, 1920, when we first started, those challenges revolved around the fact that there were very little in the way of safety nets for people. And that's one of the things that the club addressed. I think there'll be different challenges as that 10 years go by. But I think the one thing that will be common throughout those 10 years is what resources can we bring to bear to solve those problems. Those resources are going to be money, and they're going to be people, and and we have demographics that are going to show us that if we did nothing, we would have an aging out process. And so we would lack the resources of the people, the labor, to actually complete our mission of service. So those are the types of things we have to address, the resources, because if we have the resources available, as the challenges come up over the next 10 years, we'll be able to meet them.
Thank you. Frank, this one will start with you. What do you believe is the biggest flaw in the district?
Biggest flaw. If I had to say that there was a flaw, and I don't like to dwell on negatives, I would say that in many cases, it's a bit too much top down. And I think that it would be helpful. And in fact, I proposed it to have a president's council. Maybe it would be a revolving thing where different presidents from different clubs would be in, but they could give us a more closer to the membership feel for the issues that they're dealing with, and then that would involve them, and of course that helps to get buy-in when you're building a coalition to try and solve a particular problem.
Thank you, Frank. Rosemary?
I think perhaps the biggest flaw is our trouble getting the leaders we need. And that's an issue, maybe not a flaw, but it is something I believe that does need to be addressed somewhere in our thoughts and how we go after getting leaders. Because it's, we tell people, you went to the bathroom at the wrong time, so congratulations, you're our next president. Or your club hasn't had a lieutenant governor come out of it in 6 years, so the next one needs to come out of your club. And we have areas where we cannot find the leaders, and how do we develop that? And I think the more buy-in we have from the clubs, like Frank said, the better our leadership pipeline is going to be as a whole.
Well, Rosemary, that will lead us right into our next question. How do you propose to strengthen the quality of the lieutenant governor so we actually have communication between them and their clubs? What can we do?
Well, I think first of all, we need to realize that not everybody communicates the same way. There are people who would be scared to death to be on a Zoom like this tonight. There are some people who don't do email. Maybe they only do a phone call, and for some, time is hard. It's a lot easier to send a mass email out than to make 10 different phone calls. So I think we need to utilize every area of way to converse with people out there to reach them. And as lieutenant governor, I'm not kidding, I called the funeral parlor that was in the town because the guy who ran it was listed on the city's website as the treasurer for the Kiwanis Club. So I called him, and next thing you know, I was getting an email back from the secretary who, wasn't responding to my emails. So, you've got to figure out, I guess, website stalking maybe to find out how to contact the clubs and communicate with them. So there's lots of different ways out there, and we are going to have to utilize every single one of them.
Frank?
Well, I know that we do reports as lieutenant governors, and of course that gets fed up through the process. But I think that maybe as governor-elect, one of the things might be to chair a committee of lieutenant governors. I've only, as a lieutenant governor, participated in discussions with other lieutenant governors at the board meetings. And at those, we don't really discuss the problems that we've found within our divisions. My guess is that a lot of the problems that we face or their clubs face are all the same, or similar. There certainly are going to be some differences from an urban setting to a rural setting, but people are people, so there aren't that many differences. So I think that in working on a committee of lieutenant governors, or having all the lieutenant governors hold a meeting, maybe it's a Zoom meeting. Obviously, we're not going to travel anywhere because of the distances involved, but a Zoom meeting or a conference call meeting to discuss certain things. I certainly tried to do this with the presidents in my division, had an agenda for every monthly meeting, talk about different things. And I think that that's something that could be done with the lieutenant governors to help them and make them feel more comfortable in talking to their various clubs, especially if they have an idea of what's wrong, but they don't really have a solution. So they don't want to really go to the club president and talk to them about, because they don't know what else they're going to tell them. But now if they talk to other lieutenant governors who may have already experienced that, some of our lieutenant governors, this is not their first rodeo. So they've been through this a few times, and they have a lot of good ideas that they can share.
Okay, thank you. Frank, we'll take this question for you. Where do you picture yourself in the Kiwanis organization in 5 years?
Probably president of Kiwanis International. I'm just kidding. 5 years is a long time. And as I know that when I was mayor, and, things just happen. Sometimes they fall in place. Sometimes they don't fall in place. As Satchel Paige said, never look back because something may be gaining on you. But looking forward is equally hard to do. So I really don't know where I'll be in 5 years. I hope I'm still on this side of the ground.
Okay, Rosemary?
Not sure if I can top that one, Frank. But, I've seen lots of governors disappear after their past governor year. And I do not plan on doing that. I plan to still be active in whatever way I can to help the district, whether that be, leading one of the councils or serving as a committee chair. I would, if sometime, love to serve as the Children's Fund committee chair for the district. And I don't know if, trustee is in the cards. So we'll have to see on that one. But, I plan to still be active in Kiwanis for many years.
Thank you. If we were to ask you right now about your membership plan, what would be 2 highlights of your membership plan?
Mine would be to focus on our club coaching program. I know Kiwanis International has started focusing more on that, but that's been a firm belief since my first year as lieutenant governor, that if we start helping the clubs before they get into trouble with their membership numbers, then we've got a lot of better chance of saving the club and the service they do in their communities. So coaching would be my biggest one. And the second one would actually be teaching people how to ask people to come and join their Kiwanis Club, because that's where everybody I've talked to has said, I don't know how to ask.
Okay. Frank?
Well, first I'd like to start out with rolling out the analysis that I did within my division. I think that if clubs do an analysis of their individual areas, that's a great starting point for figuring out what is possible and what isn't. And then I kind of would like to explore the idea of a SWAT club or a SWAT team that could go district wide, or would be willing to do these boosts instead of just kind of doing an ad hoc kind of recruitment, which usually means a club's on its own. But to have a whole group of people who are willing to, say, go to Muskegon and spend a weekend there and help them recruit, maybe Friday night or whatever works for them. But having something like that, a team that can help them, I think I noticed from the Blitz and that I've been on the two of them, having people from out of state who have other experiences, who had different ways of recruiting, different methods. I certainly learned a lot from them. And I think that having a group within our own district who could go out and do that, who might be the best recruiters in our state, that would help a club tremendously.
Okay, thanks, Frank. This is, I think I'll have one more question after this one. So Frank, we'll start with you. The district is composed of many unique clubs. Rural clubs tend to accept district suggestions or services better if they have been approached on a personal level. How would you or the district accomplish this?
Well, I think that's it. It has to be on a personal level. I mean, I don't know that I can meet with all 152 clubs, but I will certainly talk to every president of every club, such that they will know who I am, and we can work together. And I want them to feel comfortable if they have a particular problem, that they feel that they can come to me, and that regardless if it's whatever setting they're in, that we're going to try and solve their problem.
Rosemary?
I do believe that you do have to have the personal ask in everything. So whether or not that's asking, the lieutenant governors to make the phone calls, or if you can't make them, how can I help? Do I need to sit there and, I'll take these 5 clubs and give them a phone call, and we'll make sure they all get reached. There have been times I've picked up the phone and called a club president I didn't know to invite them to come out to a club counseling summit. And so in most cases, they were appreciative that I'd actually picked up the phone and gave them a call. Now, in other cases, we had bad information and the phone number did not work. So, that went out the window. But, it is that personal ask. And if I have to do that, I am willing to do that. Or I'm willing to, show people how to do that. It's one of the big things I have to do every day in work. So it's, not really a big issue for me to sit and chat with people.
Okay, thanks, Rosemary. We'll start this question with you. Should you be leading the Michigan district when we return to normal? What do you see as our new normal?
I see a lot of concerns that our people will have. We may have people not want to do hands-on service anymore. They may not want to be near to people they don't know. And so I do see hurdles with club meetings. Maybe we won't be able to meet. Maybe people will be too scared to meet, or some of those lines. And, we do have to adapt. So one of the things is I've chatted with my club. How about we keep our Zoom meetings going, even if we are meeting in person? I can stand in the corner and film it for those who may not want to come in. And I think some of those things will have to go across the district wide. And I truly hope, because that is one of my favorite points about Kiwanis, that we will continue our hands-on service, because, that is one of our best ways to get out there. And if that means we put on masks and gloves, well, I need a Kiwanis branded mask, and I hope they put them in the district or the international store soon. So, you know, there'll be some hurdles to jump through, and I believe that we have the resilience to do it.
Frank?
Well, I am personally praying for the vaccine because I think otherwise it is going to change the way we go about doing our service. But I will say that my club, Detroit Number One, continues to have service projects. Books for Kids is still going on. We are still getting people together, and of course everyone's wearing their mask and they are keeping their social distancing. They're still labeling books, and we're still having distributions, and we're still, in fact, we've actually in the last few months distributed more books than probably we did in the previous 6 months when there was no virus problem. So I think it can be done, and I think that people will just have to get used to it if this were to continue longer term.
Okay. This is our last question for this evening, so we can keep us under the hour. There are a couple of questions here that I will pass on to Frank and Rosemary, and they can either respond directly to those individuals or respond on Facebook, or however they want to respond to them. So if you had to give me one word to pick when you pick your district teams or your district chairs, what word would describe the quality of the individual you are looking for?
Is that mine?
Yes, I'm sorry, Frank, yes.
Okay. Dedication. If you weren't looking for one word, it would be dedication.
Okay.
I think that you can have ideas. I certainly have plenty of them. But hopefully everyone's still there. My battery's low. But I think dedication is what gets the job done. To be able to implement a plan, you have to be dedicated to it. So that would be what I would.
Rosemary?
I would say active. We don't want somebody to take on a position and not show up for whatever they signed up to do. So active would be my adjective.
Okay. So Frank will close out tonight with your 90-second closing comments.
All right. Well, I don't think I have 90 seconds, but over 36 years of experience in Kiwanis, I've seen a lot of changes, a lot of challenges, and a lot of opportunities. I believe that I bring a world of experience, and from not just Kiwanis, but from private life and even public life as mayor, that allows me to see and understand a lot of the different challenges and opportunities and how we can go about addressing them. I look forward to working with all of the lieutenant governors, all the club presidents, and building on what we've already accomplished in 105 years, and hope that we will build something that will last for another 105.
Thank you, Frank. Rosemary? Final comments.
Hang on. I had to find the mute button. Thanks again, Sue, for moderating tonight's session and actually for doing all of these Let's Talks. It's been wonderful to stay connected. Larry, thank you for keeping us on time. I know I keep watching your face when I talk, and I'm glad I haven't had to see too many signs. I appreciate all the people out there for joining us for tonight's Let's Talk and learning more about those who you will be electing. And I hope after tonight you do have a clearer view of both the candidates here. And if you feel you could support me in becoming the next governor-elect of Michigan, I would appreciate you reaching out to your divisions at large delegates and asking them to vote for Rosemary.
Thank you, Rosemary. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. When the district convention information is figured out by our Governor Sarah and our Executive Director Greg, you'll hear more information about that, how those will be held with the House of Delegate sessions that will be forthcoming, knowing that we will no longer be meeting in Flint in the end of August. Again, thanks to Rosemary and Frank, first off, for stepping up and offering your leadership to the Michigan District of Kiwanis. It's a big job, and I know that you both have the capabilities to handle that position. And we appreciate just the fact that you have expressed the interest in the leadership that you will take the Michigan District of Kiwanis forward. Larry, thanks for your signage again tonight. We appreciate that. Next week, we actually have the governor of the Louisiana, Mississippi, West Tennessee District of Kiwanis. Bruce will be here to talk about alligators. So we're going from candidates to alligators. So we thought we'd have some extra fun next week. We will be talking about alligators. Bruce has a program that he's put on for many of his clubs in Louisiana, and has volunteered to join us next Thursday evening at 8 p.m. So we will again be here next Thursday at 8. Once we're done with this evening, I will make sure our video gets prepped and gets up on the Facebook site as well as soon as we can get that active. I know there were some challenges with Facebook this evening, but we're going to make sure that you have all this information. And with that, I will call it an evening. We will adjourn at 9 p.m. So everyone have a great evening. Be safe. Make sure that you wash your hands, wear your masks, and be safe. Thank you.